Have you ever lost someone that you care for or you love? Ikaw ba'y nakaranas na mawalan ng isang mahal sa buhay? Mawalan maaring pumanaw dahil sa karamdaman or old age, or kung hindi naman kaya ay nagkaroon ng hindi magandang pagkakaunawaan at hindi na ituloy ang relationship. Nagkaroon ng breakup, separation, or abandonment. Yan pong pag-uusapan natin sa araw na ito sa ating Holy Week special na podcast. And you are watching Empowering Talk and Career Tips for You, the podcast that aims to build, encourage, so that we can succeed all together. Katulad nung natanong ko sa inyo earlier, naranasan nyo na bang mawalan ng mahal sa buhay? I hope hindi pa, pero kung sakasakali, hindi kayo nag-iisa. Isa na rin ako sa nawalan ng mahal sa buhay at an unexpected period of time ng buhay ko. Ang tanong ay, how did you handle the loss of your loved one? At the same time, how were you able to move forward or move on? Pareho ba ito? Move on at move forward? Ano ba usually ang dinadaanan ng mga stages kapag tayo ay nawawala ng mahal sa buhay, or when the relationship, let us just say, did not work, nag-break up, nag-separate, and worst, if you are ghosted or abandoned by that person that you trusted, that person that you really cared for. Yan pong ating pag-uusapan sa araw na ito. Sa Holy Week na ito, alam natin na during the Friday celebration, we were commemorating on how Jesus was crucified on the cross and how He bore yung sacrifices, yung pain, yung hindi niya deserve na mga pain at pangungutya, and even the sufferings, right? All done for all of us. And that includes when He was crucified and He was at the last moment that He passed away. He died. For those who cared for Jesus, who loved Him, like Mary, His disciples, and other people whom He touched His life, how did they handle the grief? How did they handle the grief of losing that someone that they dearly love? And during that time, they actually were expecting that He was the Messiah. And they were thinking that the Messiah should live long, right? But of course, they didn't know what is yet to come, although it was in the prophecy. But then again, balik tayo ngayon on how can we apply, of course, the lessons that we are learning from the crucifixion of God, as well as when He died. And of course, on Sunday, we know that He will rise again. But then again, let us just take a look. What are the significant lessons that we can learn from the cross where Jesus had died? In our life, how are we handling the loss that is caused by the passing away or kaya pamamaalam ng isang mahal natin sa buhay? Let us take a look at the first example. How do you handle the loss? Maaring magulang, asawa, boyfriend, na alam mo yon, you were thinking that you and him will get married. That happened to me. Okay, and I'll share that story to you in a little while on how did I get through losing the one that I was supposed to get married. How many years did it take me to actually accept the fact that I need to move forward with my life? Okay, now let us just take a look. So when we talk about losses, because it's all about how to deal with your loss. So there are, for me, may 5 klase ng losses. So number 1, it could be yung about death, right? So yung death is something na ayaw talaga nating maranasan as much as possible. Pero alam nating one way or another, dadating yun kasi ang buhay natin ay may limit, hindi ba? Pero siguro what sometimes makes this like more painful is when you do not actually expect that person to pass away so early. So like what happened to me, hindi ko in-expect yun. And even, halimbawa, mga mahal natin sa buhay, like yung mga grandparents natin, like for my grandma, even if, she is already at that age wherein alam natin na may few years na lang, we still hope na, they will stay longer as long as they could because we love them, right? We don't want to lose them. And the more painful it is, especially when they passed away, for example, because of COVID. Now, what can make it more doubly, if not triply painful, is kapag involved pa, for example, yung hindi magandang hospital care, yung naibigay, di ba? So, maraming mga bagay na maaring mag-complicate na yung grief na maaring nararamdaman natin, naranasan ninyo ay siguro kung i-describe nyo is talagang, antas, hindi ba? So, yun, lost because of death and then separation, just like what was mentioned earlier. So, separation, it could be because of distance. So, dalawang friends or yung dalawang nagmamahalan, maari, di ba? You may be separated because of distance or miles, but one of these days you can meet each other again as long as the time permits, your health also permits. So, there's still a chance as long as both parties are alive and healthy. However, there is also another kind of separation, a separation that can be a little bit more negative than the separation of just a miles or distance, at least in physical distance. But if two couples who, for example, they love each other, so much and suddenly decided to just simply separate, because of a negative situation or action had been done. Halimbawa, here in the Philippines, wala pa namang divorce, right? So a lot of couples na hindi nakaka-afford ng annulment, so separation muna. So hindi pa legally separated, but at least, for the meantime, they separate ways because hindi na healthy for one another, hindi na healthy para sa mga bata emotionally or mentally pag nakikitang palagi nagbabangayan o nag-aaway ang parents. Hindi ba? Or worse, separation also could happen simply because may physical na pananakit na nangyayari from one party, to the other spouse. So, kailangan talaga mag-separate, right? Hindi kasi maganda yon. And there are other reasons. So, that's another for people who are in a relationship, particularly binded by marriage. Now, of course, counterpart naman ito is yung tinatawag natin na divorce overseas. So, sino ba sa inyo ang may kakilala na either separated or divorced? Now, how would they be describing the process? Now, sa mga kakilala ko na nakakaranas ng divorce, actually, like one of my friend, he told me, Jamie, it's really very painful and talagang it's really messy. Ayan, wala naman siguro, well, kung sakali kayo nakapag-divorce at napakaayos nito, then that's well and good. For some, they find it very messy, masakit emotionally, mentally, financially. Isa pa yon. So, ang hirap talaga. So, that's another type of loss. And there are different emotions involved in this. And then number 3, abandonment. So if a person is abandoned simply because of unknown reason, it could be mga abandonment ng mga parents, right? It could be a father to the children, or it could be a mother to the children. That still brings about too much pain of loss from the children who were left behind, a spouse, okay, that was left behind. Parang minsan nawawalan sila ng self-confidence, nawawalan, di ba, ng self-esteem simply because they try to equate their value sa taong minahal nila, na bigla na lang silang iniwan. Same thing with the children. Sometimes losing a parent also could mean, hindi ba ako mahal? Hindi ba ako worth it mahalin? Yung mga ganun ba? Hindi lang siya sa TV nangyayari, but in actual life, it can actually happen. But again, people have different reactions to this. God is there actually to be with you, and He will definitely see you through. But you have to go through a process pa rin. In what stage ka na kaya ngayon when it comes to that loss due to abandonment? So pag-usapan natin mamaya yan. And of course, so that's the third one, abandonment. Ang pang-apat naman, it could also be because of rejection, right? So we think we might have lost that opportunity because someone rejected us, right? It could be a company that rejected us. Aba, sino sa inyo hindi na-reject? Aba, meron ba? You're so lucky naman at hindi ka na-reject. I've been rejected many times, right? But that made me stronger. It simply means when the doors closed sa'yo, may better and greater door na nakalaan. So, pag-uusapan din natin yan. Naku, ang dami natin mga pag-uusapan. Hindi man sa videong ito yung full details, pero we will talk about rejection in a separate video and we'll focus on that. But those are some of the types of losses that we actually experience. Alin doon ang na-experience mo? Please type it down on the chat box so that at least we also know like what type of losses that you've actually experienced. Now, let me share to you through answering some of the questions, ano ba yung mga stages when it comes to grief or, overcoming yung loss because of these types of losses. And at the same time, ano ba yung usual reaction ng mga tao? So, let us read the first question. Para sa unang katanungan, sabi dito, what do you feel when you lose someone and how do you cope with it? Paano nga ba? Katulad ng nabanggit ko kanina, there are different types of losses and depends upon the degree of closeness you have with that person na you actually will lose one way or another, then the depth or lalim ng mararamdaman mong pain, right, ay kasama doon. So, tingnan muna natin, bago ko isa-isahin iyan, so meron tayong tinatawag na stages of grief. Well, the well-known stages of grief ay 5, pero yung isi-share ko sa inyo ay yung 7 stages because I believe yung 5 stages of grief was discovered like in 1969 and the sample people na kumbaga itines ito is for those who are terminally ill. But then the rest like universities, other psychologists, or different people were using this. Now, as I did my research, nakakita ako ng 7 stages of grief. I believe this one is more appropriate because this one, yung grief is not because you're terminally ill, but because you lost, someone through any of those types of losses that I've mentioned. So number 1, unang-una will be denial. Andun din kasama yung shock. Right? So it means because you're shocked, it seems like hindi ma-process ng brain, hindi rin ma-process ng heart, and you are denying the situation na this is actually what was happening. So when I actually first heard that the cancer of my ex-boyfriend returned or nag-relapse siya, I also cannot believe. Alam mo yon, parang I thought he's okay na. Lalo na nung nasa ospital, gabi na nandun kami sa ospital na hindi ko inaakala na it will be the last. I was in shock. I was in denial. No, this is not happening. Alam nyo yun yung parang hindi ko talaga binibitawan. Andun lang ako, nagpe-pray. Ang sabi ko, please wake up, please wake up. Although sinasabi ko na sa kanya in Psalms 23, though you walk in the shadow of the valley of death, you will fear no evil because Jesus is with you. He also loves Jesus very much. He sings for God. Pero alam niyo yun yung naisip ko na sabihin sa kanya during that time if he really is pauwi sa Panginoon. Umiiyak ako ng umiiyak sa Panginoon na please don't, wag niyo po pong kunin. He was only 29, we were only 29. Ang dami pa naming plano po sa buhay namin. But then that actually happened. I was in shock. Alam niyo po yun na ini-expect ko na lang na, di ba sa mga movies, meron yung kahit na dineclare na, after code blue na wala na, bumabalik, di ba? At ibig sabihin na bubuhay ulit. I was hoping for that. I was really hoping for that na, alam mo yun, he'll come back to life. At alam mo yun, sudden ano lang nung heart yun at babalik siya. But I think his heart was filled already with water. And hindi ko na po alam yung iba pang medical term na ginamit nila, but all I was feeling during that time was sense of shock, deep pain, denial na hindi to nangyayari. Up to the morgue po, sa morgue, sumama po ako, pababa ng ospital. Uuwi pa namin kasi siya sa amin, sa Cavite. So, it's quite a far ride, but it was really painful. So, yung number 2, pain, andun po yung pain na hindi mo maintindihan because of the loss, hindi mo na makakasama. Siyempre, if I was in pain, mas in pain ang parents niya at yung kapatid niyang babae po na mahal siya. So, ako naman, girlfriend, I loved him. Pero siyempre, sila po talaga yung kasama talaga all throughout his life. Yung sinasabi nila yung pangalawa is guilt. Ako naman po, walang guilt. But alam mo yung mga regret na parang, sana nagawa ko to, sana ganyan. May kahit konting ganun po na sana hindi na ako umuwi ng bahay. Kasi at least yun naman, kasi a day before lang po, okay na okay siya. Tapos biglang kinabukasan, na ICU po siya. But, you know, no one is to blame. No one expected it to happen. And then number 3, andun po yung anger and bargaining. So number 1, shock and denial. Number 2, pain and guilt. Number 3, it could be anger or bargaining. So again, iba-iba po kasi yung stages. It doesn't necessarily mean po naman na lahat ito ay mararanasan nyo in order. Ang tawag po nila dito is non-linear feelings or stages. It means that possibly na dumaan po tayo dito pero yung mga feelings na mararamdaman po natin, ano siya, kumbaga, it could be at any stage. So, it's different for everyone. But then again, these are how they summarized it after the 200 people they interviewed who actually experienced if. So, anger and bargaining, yun yung sinasabi nilang pangatlo. Yung anger, dun sa situation ko po, I actually did not feel angry kay God. It's more on really pain of losing Him. I did not feel angry with God because He is God and I believe kung mahal, yung comforting words po na binigay sa akin ng Diyos when I was staring at His coffin, kami pa po yung pumili, ako yung kapatid niya, and then yung sister niya, and then yung best friend ko ang pumili ng damit na isusuot niya po sa coffin. So, while I was looking and staring at him at the coffin, nung dinala na po siya sa bahay from the morgue, the only thing I remembered, I kept telling God is, God, nasasaktan po ako. So painful, God, because I don't understand. I felt my heart shattered into thousands of pieces. I felt my bright world, slowly naging gloomy. Why, God? I asked God why. Well, God created me, so He knew that when I ask Him why, it's because my mind needs to understand. I'm not asking Him why ay, God, why? Hindi ganon. It's just like, God, ang sakit ng puso ko, paintindi nyo naman kahit konti sa akin. Why at a very young age, na he's very active then in serving the Lord, why he needs to go this early. You know, the comforting words that God had told me, anak, I know that you love him so much. And, you know, you could have had a great life together. And his parents and sister love him so much. But you know what? I love you all and I love him very much. Now, I allow this to happen because there's a great reason and uh, hindi ko man ma-reveal sa'yo lahat sa ngayon. Ang masasabi ko is mahal ko kayong lahat at mahal na mahal ko siya. At that timing had happened because it is time. So during that time, though my mind cannot really fathom or understand everything, yung siguro parang ointment or balm sa aking heart is ang sabi ng Diyos na mahal niya kami at mahal din niya. Kumbaga, yung aking ex-boyfriend na si Aris na who passed away because of cancer. So, there was no room for anger. Bargaining, I did that I think earlier nung nandun pa siya sa may hospital na kung pwede mas mahaba pa yung life niya, wag niyo po muna kunin sa ngayon. But, you know, that already happened and I need to learn how to accept it. But in the process, kasi it's a process, talagang masakit kasi you will not be able to be with that person ever again. Number 4 is depression. For some, again, in my situation, hindi ko to naramdaman or hindi ko naranasan. Bakit? Kasi I was able to express yung aking emotions. I cry when I need to cry. Minsan po pauwi na lang ako. Halimbawa, nagtatrabaho po kasi ako noon, so balik ako sa trabaho after. Kapag halimbawa nagbabiyahe po ako sa public bus and then may music na biglang halimbawa tutugtog na kasi he's a band vocalist po. He loves music so much and the way he usually expresses his love to me is through his music. So binibigyan ako niyan. Uso pa po noon yung CD. So binibigyan niya po ako ng mga CD ng music na dedicate niya sa akin. He sings for me. Haranang modern. Yun po yung ginagawa niya. So, when some of those music that reminds me of him plays na sa public bus, yung luha ko po, kusang bumabaksak na hindi po talaga mapigilan. Buti na lang, tulog yung ibang tao, madilim, alam nyo yon hindi makita sa bus. So, thankful ako. But I just let it flow. Hindi ko siya pinipigilan, but hindi ko pinipigilan kapag alam ko na yung situation ay, alam mo, wala namang makakita sa akin. Pero once I am at work, I always decide po na with God's help na hindi po ako umiiyak. Hindi ko pinapakita sila na naiyak ako. Sometimes, pag tinatanong nila, kamusta ka, ganto, naluluha-luha ako. Kasi parang hindi po naman ako, ilang taon po hindi ako nauubusan ng luha kapag tinatanong or pinag-uusapan siya. Pero kinokontrol ko kung saan ko ilalabas in terms ng ayoko naman kasi po yung maging impression ng mga tao sa akin. Sino? Si Jamie? Iris? Ano siya? Naku, tuwing pag-uusapan na lang yung boyfriend, iyak ng iyak. I don't wanna be like that. And I wanna stay strong in the Lord. So, I cry in places na walang taong nakakakita. If it's my friend and his friends, kumbaga, nagkakaintindihan kami pag nagkukwentuhan doon, naiiyak ako and thankful ako sa mga kaibigan ko during that time. Si Kaz, si Jay, during that time si Roman, sila Crisanto, sila Matt, at alam mo yon, they actually helped me throughout ng aking process. So, they listen to me, si Roman, yan. They listen to me when, kapag nagkukwentuhan kami, Si Ian, ayan pa. Alam mo yung mga naalala ko yung mga kaibigan ko about him because I love him as his girlfriend and he was my boyfriend. But then again, these people loved him also as their kuya, their best friend. So when we talk about him, nakakatulong. Plus, yung family talaga niya, si Mama Vita, si Papa Roger, we actually helped each other through this. I think that's part of yung sa grief, napaka-importante din na you are with the people who actually know the person. I think that helped us all maka-move on because like each one are the representation of how naging parte ng buhay namin. Yung special person na yun, I was with the family ni Aris all throughout and they loved me for who I am and helped me get through those stages. So even now, si Mama, tsaka si She, I'm so glad to just, have seen them recently after many years of not seeing each other because of COVID-19. Uh, though Aris now is our angel and Papa as well, Papa Roger, we're simply so blessed to be together. And I think having each other who understand also the loss, we have that common loss, helped us also one way or another to move forward. Hindi po move on eh. Kasi yung move on, pag-uusapan natin yan in another video again, um, you can never move on from someone you actually care and had been a part of your life. You will always love that person for who he is and what he is in your life. And like, for example, in my situation, if I decide, it's a decision on my part when I love someone else, okay? So that at least hindi ko compare sa kanya. So it took me 8 to 10 years po before I actually start dating again. But it was quite an effort talaga. Kailangan may effort na on my part na, okay, it's a decision. So you know that, Aris is in heaven right now and he wanted the best and the Lord also wants the best. So I'm just seeking kung ano yung kalooban ng Panginoon. So yun, napaka-importante po nun. And after that, so hindi po ako na-depress. That really helped. Meron kang grupo who can actually help you through that facing that loss. And I think ang pinakamalaking nakatulong sa akin kaya hindi po ako naging depressed is God. Yung faith ko sa Panginoon lalong tumibay imbis na lumayo ako sa, di ba kasi gano'n naman po yun eh. So some na nakakausap ko, they rebel against God through this process or nagtatampo, ano kasi yung anger, di ba? Ako kasi siguro, nung time na nasa coffin pa lang po siya, nasa kabaong, I asked God na. I was that honest with God. And I said, God, why? Please make me understand. Please, because I don't understand. And it's, the pain, it's killing me softly. Parang ganun po, di ba? Parang kanta. And there were times na, during the time nung wake niya o burol niya, paggigising ako, parang feeling ko na binangungot ba ako or something. Yung in terms na parang, totoo ba to, nightmare ba to or what? I wish I would wake up from this bad dream. But it is what it is. And all throughout, pag ako nasasaktan, God, nagsasabi ako palagi, God, masakit po ha. God, tulungan niyo po ako ha. Lord, tulungan niyo po ako dito to get through. Because sometimes you have to smile in front of other people, especially when you're in the workplace. But sometimes, you still have that a little bit of pain. But you just simply have to go through life and then enjoy it still. It's, hindi ka nagkakasala kung you learn how to enjoy yung life mo. It doesn't mean na hindi ka nagigrieve ka pa rin naman eh. And it takes time. Now, for some, pag natapos na yung depression, the upward turn. So for me, salamat naman sa Diyos, after syempre nung ilang taong kalungkutan, unti-unti naman, ako ay nagkaroon ng kumbaga positive outlook. Hindi pa rin po ako nakikipag-date during that time, hindi ready yung heart ko, ang tagal niya bago ma-ready. But then again, yung career ko naman po bumulusok. So from the Philippines, nag-overseas po ako 2 years after when he passed away, and then my career grew. And that really helped me, yung different, binless ako ni God mapunta sa ibang bansa. So it's a different environment, and kumbaga mas na-focus yung brain ko doon, yung heart ko doon. Nalulungkot pa rin ako every now and then, kasi pangarap naming magbakasyon. Alam mo, minsan naiisip-isip mo pa din. Pero you choose to count your blessing instead of your grief. So siguro talagang may effort po, kaya pa-upward turn. And then number 6, yung reconstruction and working through. So yun po, we had to reconstruct what seemed to be lost, para at least, we could regain back yung track natin to our path, and then working through. So, hindi naman po pwede na, you just let it be. Initially, I thought the wound of the loss will heal on its own, but that's not true. So, yes, time could help, but you have to help yourself. So, the Bible, the Word of God, really helped a lot. Talking to my best friend, that's Karen, who's a sister and a friend and knows Aris so much, the best friend of Aris, so, and friends of Aris and his family. So, that really helped me a lot. Pastors and mga sisters who, sabi nila, you're still young, and you actually, can still have that chance to get married. However, regardless of how many convincing from people, only when God convinced me, that's the time that, sabi ko, sige, magde-date ulit ako. I asked God for forgiveness kasi umikot po sa Kanya yung buhay ko. Parang, alam mo yon, nung nawala siya, kala ko lahat shattered na. Mali naman. Dapat part lang siya ng buhay ko na importante, but my whole world should not be depending on the person I love. So, ganun din po ba kayo? Parang feeling nyo na wasak na yung buong buhay nyo simply because of this one person? Masasabi ko po, hindi po dapat ganon. Kasi dapat you're a whole person na, even before that relationship, that I didn't realize during that time na he is a part of my life, but he is not my whole life. Because God will not be pleased because of that. Because our life should be dedicated to the purpose of the Lord that He had given to us. And if I stop that because of the pain of losing my ex-boyfriend, then I don't glorify God. That's when I ask God for forgiveness, when I realized that. So it was like 8 years na. Tagal din po, no? Then that's the time na, but throughout that years naman, sinasabi ko kay God, if kalooban niyo pa akong magmahal muli, buksan niyo yung puso kong nakakandado. God will work things out sa atin kapag we actually ask for it. So, He actually did. But it took me time. And then, number 7, because of mga brothers and sisters, ate at kuya sa church din, plus the Word of God and other circumstances, and even yung parents ng ex-boyfriend ko, they always tell me whenever I go back to the Philippines, we are praying for you, anak. Gusto ka rin namin magkaasawa, gusto ka rin namin magkaanak, we love you. So yung pagmamahal nila, alam mo, it made me cry many times because I'm so overwhelmed with the love that the parents of my ex-boyfriend were giving me and still give me. Bagamat si Papa, Roger, nasa heaven na, kasama na niya si Aris. So, masaya na yung dalawang yon. That helped me. So, nagkaroon ako ng acceptance that, isa pa, hindi ko kasi po din alam dati, no? So, paano ako mag-move on? Does it mean nakalimutan ko siya and we promised each other this and that when he was still alive? And then I realized may season pala po ang buhay natin. So, during that season in time, kami yung tinawag ng Panginoon together. And then, the season of his life came na he had to go home to heaven and I am left here. So now, maaring, again, it depends upon God. Kung may season siya na, alam mo yon na I'll be with another person, I leave it in God's hand. So, but hindi ngayon, I learned how to date, pero at this point in time, wala pa po talaga na alam niyo yon na masasabi ko na in a relationship, there were those who cared and I almost cared for, but it still didn't work out. So during that time, again, ng grief acceptance na I will move forward. So andun po yung acceptance na, when you say acceptance na, yes, I'm moving forward, it simply means that I accept that he will always be the first guy that I fell in love with and I loved. But then again, when I find, for example, the person that God wants me to commit myself and love again, I will not be comparing them to. So the love that I have for him will always be there because, he's the person I love. So no one can say nakalimutan mo na, alam mo yon, move on ka na. It's more on accepting. I think that's a better word. You move forward and accept that he is in heaven right now. But then the love that was given to him, it cannot be erased or deleted. It is what it is. And if I decide, it's a decision, it's a choice to love someone again, I will love that person uniquely. Kumbaga, the way I would be loving that person. Not the same as how I loved him, not comparing on how I loved my ex, okay? Because they're different. So yun yung na-accept ko po. And so may hope ako kay God na He has a great future for me. So whatever and however it will be according to my purpose and calling in life, may it be done in Jesus' name. O, diba? So yan po, yung mga 7 stages of grief na maaring pinagdadaanan po natin. Una po yung denial and shock. Number 2, pain and guilt. Number 3, it could be anger and bargaining. Number 4, depression. Number 5, the upward turn. Number 6, reconstruction and working through. At number 7, acceptance and hope. Now, again, yung pain, it could be varying in intensity, depende po sa aging gravity nung loss na meron po tayo. And then, how do you cope? Ayun, I-share ko naman po sa inyo how I coped then through those stages so that at least you know how I actually cope para hindi po ako ma-depress and I was able to accept and have hope in my life right now. Number 2, what do you think is the most difficult part of losing someone? Acceptance. I believe yung para dumating ka doon sa last stage ng acceptance, that's the most difficult part kasi it will take time. Ang dami mong pagdadaanan. Yun talaga. And syempre, coming into terms with the pain, with the loss, ano ba yung helpful na response sa situation at hindi reaction kasi losing someone, if you don't know how to control your emotions, it can be destructive to the person who lost someone. So, yun. Napaka-importante na we could respond to it in a positive way so that it could lead to acceptance. So, kaya siya sinabi ko na pinakamahirap kasi yun yung pinaka-last step at ang daming pagdadaanan and some, hindi, until now, hindi pa go through ng acceptance, hindi pa rin sila nakakarating ng stage ng acceptance. Andun pa rin doon sa first few stages. So, ikaw, nasang stage ka na ba of dealing with someone that you lost? I hope in time, you will also have that acceptance and, of course, a combination of hope. Ayan, how can you manage the pain of losing someone? So, sa akin, managing the pain, it's really hard kasi that is really uncontrollable. You don't know when you'll feel the pain, but sometimes every time you think about him, anything that reminds you about him, the music, the people, sometimes there is pain. Now, you just simply have to be clear of what needs to be done. So, napaka-importante nun. Like, for example, you have to work. You have to take care of yourself. You have to live your life again. And just like what I've said, hindi kailangan umikot sa kanya. And from there, at least namamanage ko yung pain na hindi ito ang mag-take over ng buhay ko. Na even if I was in pain, people don't actually notice that. I was not repressing my feelings. I'm not suppressing my feelings. I know just when to express it, how to express it, and where. Ayan. So may timing, never kong hinahalo sa trabaho yung aking pag-iyak. Siguro kung alam mo, mapaiyak ka ng konti, punta takbo sa banyo, pero hindi ka papakita sa ibang tao kasi, you're there to work and you're not there to simply cry. When I lost my grandmother, just this 2 years ago from COVID, I received the news from a text message from my mother through in my office. So, doon napaiyak talaga ako. Iyak talaga ako kasi nagulat ako nang sinabi niya, your mamita is already in. Umuwi na siya kay God sa heaven. So, nabitawan ko po talaga yung phone ko. Hindi ako makapaniwala kasi malakas pa siya nung iniwan ko when I left for the UK. And then, it was so parang hindi ko ma-imagine. I was still expecting na to take care of her when I go home, but that happened. So it was a shock for me. I cried. I cried when I know there were no clients na kasi trainer po ako, so wala akong tuturuan. Ang nandun lang yung manager ko, yung kasamahan ko sa work. I cried. I just let them see my vulnerability because it is what I felt during that time, and I that's my outlet so that I could deal with the situation. And then I told them what had happened. My manager asked me, "Oh, you can call through your phone." Kasi meron kaming privilege na ganun ko sakaling you lost some. I was in the UK during that time, and I was too far. And then she said, "What do you want to do? Do you want to go home?" Pauwi na rin naman po ako after a month. And during that time, pag umuwi ka, 14 days ka sa hotel, maka-quarantine. So my mom and I decided na hindi na lang ako uuwi. Kasi, una, 14 days maka-quarantine sa hotel. And then yung sa bahay din namin dahil they diagnosed my grandma na merong COVID-19, nahawa yung ibang mga pinsan ko din. So, hindi din pwede umuwi sa bahay kasi nga, kailangan din nila mag-quarantine. So, the best thing is for me to stay in the UK and just go home na lang when I need to go home. Now, during that time, how to manage the pain of losing someone is I know what my tendencies are. Alam ko how dearly loved sa akin ang grandma ko. Although others might say, but ilang taon na ba siya? She's 80 plus, 87, but she's still strong and we're still hoping that she lives longer. So it still gives me pain. It was unexpected still for me. Although, yes, nasa age siya. But when you love someone, you don't want them to go at any point in time that soon. Alam mo yon. So, anyway, since I know I need to grieve, siguro yun po yung knowing na yung tendency ko when I lost my ex-boyfriend. Alam ko na, ang tendency ko is when I lost someone I love, I need to grieve, I need to cry. And every time sasagi siya sa isip ko, iiyak ako. Plus, I was far away. I was in the UK. Hindi ko siya nakita at the last minute. So when that happened, I told my manager because they were asking me, what do you need? So I told her that, can you please give me time to work from my cabin? So it means doon na lang po ako na magtatrabaho sa cabin ko, sa room ko. Pero magtatrabaho pa rin ako kasi may culture kasi sa amin. It's an overseas, kumbaga it's a multinational company. Madalas sasabihin, how are you? How are you? How are you? I cannot take, alam ko, sa sarili ko to manage my pain in losing my grandmother, hindi ko kaya yung tanong na how are you? Baka kasi bigla akong umiyak na hindi dapat nila makita. I mean, hindi makita ng bawat tao na isang daan mahigit makikita kong tao sa araw na yon. I don't wanna be crying in front of them at hindi magandang imahe, kumbaga ng department namin or hindi ko rin gusto na ma-remember ako ng ganon na mga tao. So, I know my tendency. I think self-awareness is very important. So, when I was about to uh, So, self-awareness is important and thankful ako sa manager ko at sa kasama ko during that time. They really were very supportive and they let me actually stay sa aking room for how many days to grieve. And that helped me. Kasi nung babalik na ako sa office, hindi ako ganon. Nakokontrol ko na yung iyak ko. Maluluha-luha pa rin pero nakokontrol ko na siya. At hindi na ako yung super kumbaga, iyak, hindi katulad ng mga first few days. So, know yourself, yung tendencies mo, and I made sure pala them before I actually worked from my cabin or my room, tinapos ko po muna yung kailangan tapusin ng mga trabaho. May presensya pa din ako. Hindi ako na-take over lang ng emotion. Kailangan you still fulfill your duties as much as you can. So, ginawa ko yung kailangan kong gawin and at least may peace of mind ako habang nagtatrabaho po ako sa aking room while grieving for the loss of my grandma. So with that, I'll see you in my next podcast that's empowering talk and career tips for you. And remember, here our aim is to build, encourage, so that we can succeed together best. So, subscribe na po kayo sa aking channel, sa podcast ko, follow nyo na, FB page at TikTok. Gayon din po ay siguraduhin my next podcast. If you have a topic na nais ninyong i-discuss ko, please drop it down sa comment box so that at least I could discuss it for you. So once again, my name is Jamie, your career excellence coach and your public speaking global trainer. So thank you for watching and I'll see you next episode.